you go to a proposal or just ask?
No, I just asked her. I just told her. It's like,
I think we agree the freshman year if we didn't have you just say
no, I had to. It actually took kind of a lot of. I was like, I don't want to go by myself. She's like, okay, I'll do it. It's Grace's best friend. So we're pals.
Good morning. We're glad to have you with us today on this Lord's Day. The sun is shining and it's comfortable here, and our ushers are coming down the aisles at this point to pass out some attendance slips. We'd ask all of our members and guests alike, if you wouldn't mind filling that out, that we might have a record of your attendance. Just put it in the receptacle in front of you. We appreciate the fact that you've taken from your schedule to be with us today, especially those of you who are guests. If you're from out of town or you're from in our own community, we want to say welcome, and we hope you meet some friendly folks today. If you're looking for a church home, we'd like very much to talk to you about the faith and fellowship that brings us together every Lord's Day. Today, you should have received a worship program as you entered the auditorium, and there on the back side you'll find an incomplete outline of this morning's lesson that will kind of help you know in what direction we'll be going there. And this morning you'll in our worship, Rob Hadley will be leading our singing, one of our ministers here. Our first prayer will be led by Adam Pope. The scripture reading will be led by Brent Davenport, after which we'll be taking the Lord's Supper, something we do every Lord's Day to remind us of what God has done for us through Jesus Christ, as instructed by Jesus to his disciples, as we do so with a piece of bread that reminds us of his body, and the grape juice, which reminds us of the blood that was shed. At the appropriate time, Mark Edwards will then be sharing with us some family news. Today will be a special day, and he'll be talking about some of the projects that will be going on today, and then our closing prayer with Steve Lanningham. So we appreciate your presence, and at this time we invite you to participate now in our worship as Rob leads us.
We're going to sing our first two songs this morning back to back, no break between them, and then we'll have our opening prayer. Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. King of all days, oh so highly exalted, glorious in heaven above. Humbly you came to the earth you created, all for love's sake became poor. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see Jesus, name above all names, beautiful Savior, glorious Lord, Emmanuel, God is with us, blessed Redeemer, living Word. Jesus, name above all names, beautiful Savior, glorious Lord, Emmanuel, God is with
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to have the health, ability, and the will to be here this morning. We ask that you would watch over each one of us as we worship, that we could lift each other up and grow closer to you. Please watch over everyone as they minister today and guide us in all that we do. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
We're going to do the same thing with the next two songs, and then we'll have our scripture reading and the Lord's Supper.
God alone is worthy, worthy. Holy is his name. How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that he should give his only Son to make a wretch his treasure. How great the pain of searing loss! The Father turns his face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon a cross, my sin upon his the scoffers. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything. No gifts, no power, no wisdom. But I will boast in Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart. His wounds have paid my ransom.
This morning's scripture reading will be taken from Isaiah 53, verses 10 through 12. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. After he has suffered, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he will bear their iniquities. Therefore I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death and was numbered with the transgressors, for he bore the sin of many and made the intercession for the transgressors.
Let's pray together. Glory be to you, God, for we know how much you love us and your plan of salvation for your Son to die on the cross. We read about his broken body that hung there for us. And we are here, Father, to worship you and to reflect now at this time of Jesus' death. And may we do so in a mindset that's pleasing to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Father in heaven, as we continue this memorial feast, we thank you for the blood that Jesus shed on the cross of Calvary. And as we partake of this fruit of the vine that represents that blood, we pray that we will remember his death and until he comes. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Will you pray with me? Our Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this great nation that we get to live in, Lord. We're truly blessed here as a people. Lord, we're thankful for this congregation, and this congregation is blessed as well. Lord, we ask that at this time as we give back to you that we search our hearts, Lord, and we give according to our abilities, and Lord, with a cheerful heart. We ask for wisdom for the eldership, the leadership here, that they make the decisions that help to not only grow your family here, Lord, but help in all portions of the world to help grow your kingdom. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Let's be standing for our song before Jack's lesson this morning.
That's true.
In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my life, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm to the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of peace, when fears are stood, when striving cease. My comforter, my all in all, here in the love of Christ I stand. In Christ alone, who took on flesh, fullness of God in helpless babe, this gift of love and righteousness, scorned by the ones he came to save, till on that cross, as Jesus died, the wrath of God was satisfied. For every sin on him was laid. Here in the death of Christ I live. There in the ground his body lay, light of the world by darkness slain. Then bursting forth in glorious day, up from the grave he rose again. And as he stands in victory, sin's curse has lost its grip on me. For I am his and he is mine, bought with the precious blood of Christ. No guilt in life, no fear in death. This is the power of Christ in me. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commends my destiny. No power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from his hand, till he returns or calls me home. Here in the power of Christ I stand.
Please be seated.
Good morning again. God is good all the time. And again, we want to say how glad we are that you are here, especially those of you that are guests today, and we want to thank you for taking from your schedule to be a part of this worship assembly, and we pray that this will be a faith-building experience for you. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is a special day, and that the fifth Sunday of the month, when there are 5 Sundays, we've designated as sort of a service Sunday, and there'll be more details of that given in our family news, but just to remind you, this is a day of which a number of our people will be putting faith into action. We'd like to express it that way, and an opportunity to serve others and various projects around the community of a physical nature. And we've got a beautiful and sunshiny day. I started to say a warm day, not necessarily, but it'll be warm if you work. And but as a result of that, because there'll be so much ministry this afternoon, we will not be having our traditional worship assembly this evening. So just to remind you of that. But there'll be more details given about our projects in just a moment. Excuse me, As many of you know, I've been kind of ill the last couple of weeks, and many of you have asked, and I appreciate it, and I am better. And I'll just put it that way. And we're glad to be here. And I know many are suffering through various colds and flus this time of year, and we pray God's healing hand upon you. He was a man who had made a very terrifying discovery. In fact, he was literally shocked when he realized what he had found. He couldn't believe that it was happening to him. He knew of it happening to others. He had actually witnessed it. He'd heard about it. But he never imagined that he himself would now be going through a similar situation. It was an awful discovery that kept him awake at night. Oh, he tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. And if it did, it was only briefly, and the dreams that he had were just nightmares, literally. And he'd wake up in a cold sweat and go through it all again. If the nightmare was true, he could no longer pretend. He couldn't imagine it away. He couldn't deny it anymore. He knew what he had to do. His wife knew something was wrong. She'd watched it develop in recent days as her husband looked haggard and worn out and hollow-eyed. As a young man, he faced the most terrifying experience of his life. As he woke that early morning, he kissed his wife and his children goodbye and tried to explain a journey that he had to make. He tried to assure them that they weren't to worry about it, that everything was going to be okay. But he was not very convincing, and he certainly didn't believe it himself. And then he walked away. His eyes filled with tears as he knew that the terrible discovery would probably prevent him from ever returning home, that he would never see his wife and children again. He finally reached his destination. It was a large building. He walked up the steps. He hesitated briefly before knocking on the large doors. They slowly opened, and there he saw a man that he had never really seen before. But he recognized him as a priest. The priest looked at the man facing him and had seen that look in his eye and those eyes many, many times before, a look of hopelessness. And so he nodded for the man to come on in. As the visitor entered the room, he pulled up the sleeve of his robe to reveal a shiny spot on his shoulder. The hair inside the spot had turned snow white. He then parted his trousers to show a place on his thigh, very similar, a half-moon looking place. Again, very bright, white. And then the words that he dreaded hearing came down with such a thunderous roar. Unclean. Unclean. Along with, may God have mercy on you. As the doors closed behind the man, he fell to his knees in the street below. Streams came roaring out of his eyes and filled his face and cheeks. He tore and ripped his clothes. He reached into the sand and the dust, and he picked up handfuls of dust and threw it in the air and let it fall all over him. The priest's instructions to him had been piercing of his heart. He told him, "You're going to have to live alone outside the city gates for the rest of your life. You must cover the lower part of your face with your hand, and you must cry out the words, "Unclean, unclean." The words of the living dead would be his testimony from now on. The long walk outside the city gates brought him all too close to his home. The stares of his family and his friends followed, and there was a rush to run out to meet him and embrace him, but he had a strong determination to protect them at all costs. His heart was breaking inside, but he refused to allow his children to touch him. He appeared angry to them. They didn't understand. They cried out, "Daddy, why? What's going on?" He couldn't talk. He only turned away and walked away as his heart inside his chest simply turned to dust. I don't believe that there is probably a more powerful illustration in the Bible of a person hopelessly lost than that of the leper. They were outcasts of society. They were rejected by men. They were despised and shunned with absolutely no hope of a cure. And this is the background of our study this morning from Luke chapter 5, verses 12 through 16. You may want to take your Bibles and turn there. We'll be focusing on those words. In fact, it begins with these words in verse 12. That while Jesus was in one of the towns, a man came along who was covered with leprosy. And when he saw Jesus, he fell with his face to the ground and begged him, "Lord, if you're willing, you can make me clean." I want to focus on that phrase for just a moment this morning. Because what we find here, first of all, is this man that Luke tells us was covered with leprosy. Full of leprosy, it says in one translation. As most of us understand from past studies, leprosy represented at this time a devastating, deadly disease of which there seemed to be nothing but death awaiting. I don't know what we would compare it to today. Some would say it would be like AIDS, I guess, for some. The terminal cancer. Some cancers, when we hear where they're located, we know immediately that's a death sentence, and maybe that's what it means. We know that it started from a very small beginning, that it soon would spread and contaminate the whole body, that this man was a symbol of pain and loneliness and despair, and that death would maybe be his only relief. And just as this man, however, friends, I want us to recognize today that our world is full of lepers. It's full of leprosy, only leprosy of a different kind. People who are contaminated and polluted with sin. People who are hurting and lonely and desperate, and many of them suicidal. As a minister, over these 50 plus years now, I have met my share of lepers. Not of the physical kind, but of the spiritual. My mind goes back to so many occasions. I think of a woman age 19 who comes into my office. She's dragging one child. She's pregnant with a second. She's not married. She's left a doctor's office who's told her the only outlet for her is to have an abortion. She's struggling. She wants to know, what am I to do? I think of a boy, age 16, I visited in the jail. He had robbed a Holiday Inn, had a shootout with the police. He was facing a long term. His father had rejected him as a child, and he was desperate for attention. A man in his 50s I visited in the hospital who was an alcoholic, whose son had already overdosed on drugs, whose wife had left him, and his neighbors would steal from him because he was not capable of resisting. Or a woman in her 80s I visited in the nursing home who's sitting there and moaning as she rocks back and forth a toy doll because she's been forgotten by her children. A woman in her 40s who's been beaten up and abused by her husband, but she doesn't have the willpower to leave him yet or to file for a divorce, and she's struggling to find that. Just this past week, I think of a man who's an executive with a large company, yet whose son who is struggling with homosexual tendencies and loneliness, and he doesn't know how to respond to that, and this man's been a youth leader in his church, and they're struggling. What have we done wrong? That's their question, they think. Of a young lady who's just had a child out of wedlock, and she doesn't want to have anything to do with the child's father, and neither does the father want to have anything to do, and yet she's going to try to raise this child on her own. She was supposed to get out of drug court this week, but she ate a bagel covered in poppies, and that didn't work. Maybe next month. Of a man and his wife whose marriage is struggling to survive because they adopted a son at a very young age, but as he got older, and he's been a very difficult child. He's discovered that his biological father's in prison. He's determined that he's going to be just like his biological father, and he's trying to live up to that image. They're doing everything they know to survive and make it right. They've sent him to institutions. They're now taking him up into Kansas to live with a relative, hoping that he'll be able to start all over. And I could go on, and those are just this week. Lepers, they're all lepers. There are lepers in this audience this morning. There are parents right here I know who feel like failures because maybe your children have rejected your faith and your value systems, and you don't understand why. You did everything you knew to do, and you did. Based on the information you had, you did everything you could, and you can't understand, and nobody does. I know there are couples that are struggling to make their marriage work, and yet maybe they're on the verge of simply saying, hey, let's just quit. We can't go on like this anymore. There are those that are struggling to be parents, and yet they have to be parents to their parents as they're aging, and they don't know how to respond to that. There are those that have had news of cancer that are destroying loved ones, and you're so helpless. You've been a fixer all your life, and you can't fix this, and you can't fix people. It's all leprosy. Sometimes there are young people who want to be so loved, and so they seek affection, and they find outlets that are not healthy and are only destructive, and they don't understand how it works that way. All of us are full of leprosy, folks. We're running over sometimes with hopelessness, weighted down with guilt, lost, just like a man who's been diagnosed. And yet, we feel hopeless and lost. But this man heard the rumors. There's somebody new in town. They say he's a Messiah. But more than that, somewhere near Capernaum, he spoke with authority. That's what they're saying. They say his name is Jesus. And he has a reputation for compassion, even for the worst of people, for the sick and for the needy. They say he has power over life and death, with courage and with faith. The leper seeks out the only sliver of light that dare penetrate his dark, dark world. And so he enters an area of where he's not permitted, and yet as he wakes his way, the crowds, they divide like the Red Sea in front of him, because they know who he is and what he is, and they dare not touch him. He's the untouchable. Mothers and fathers grab their children and cover their eyes. Don't look, don't look. That man's a leper. And they turn away. And the words that he gives to Jesus is, Lord, if you're willing, you can make me clean. Did he really say that? If you're willing? See, it wasn't a matter of whether he felt or believed that he could. He believed that he could. The question was Jesus willing? Would he? The prophet reached out his hand. The crowd gasped. No, don't do that. Don't you know the law? It was forbidden to touch the unclean. But it was too late. The deed was done. And still they wondered, would the leper be healed, or would the healer now become a leper? The truth was revealed with the words of the Master. In verse 13, and Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. I am willing, he said. Be clean. And immediately the leprosy left him. Immediately. Folks, Jesus is still the answer to a world of lepers today, to our modern day lepers. Leprosy has been saying, be sick, be lonely, be forsaken, be discouraged, be lost. But now there's a greater voice in our world. The voice that says, be clean, be whole, be saved. No human can, of course, save himself once contaminated, whether it's leprosy or whether it's sin. Listen to the words of Paul as he writes to the young man Titus in Titus chapter 3, in verses 4 beginning. But when the kindness and the love of God our Savior appeared, he saved us not because of righteous things we had done, but because of his mercy. He saved us through the washing of rebirth and renewal by the Holy Spirit, whom he poured out on us generously through Jesus Christ our Savior, so that having been justified by his grace, we might become heirs, having the hope of eternal life. Hope. Hope. That's what it's all about. Hope, that anticipation, something better is going to happen. We have to have hope to survive, no matter what our sickness is, no matter what our sin is. The rest of the story, at first sounds sort of strange to us. Verse 14, and then Jesus ordered him, Don't tell anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest and offer the sacrifices that Moses commanded for your cleansing as a testimony to them. He was told to follow the law, to withhold that testimony until healing was verified, until the gratitude offering was to be made. He couldn't say anything or go anywhere else. And so now look at the man. Watch him run. Oh, now he's running. He's not only running, he is jumping. He is taking bounds like you've never seen before. And he is smiling. And he is singing. And he is shouting all the way to the temple door. And when he gets there, open the door. And the leper checkers, when they look, they can't believe their eyes either. He's examined by the priest. And the man keeps talking about this guy called Jesus. He brings with him 2 live, clean birds, a piece of cedar wood, a scarlet thread, and a hyssop branch. That's what the law required, Leviticus chapter 14. The one bird is taken by the priest. A sharp knife slices it. The bird, as he dies, his blood is drained into a bowl of fresh water. The other bird is taken and tied to that cedar branch and the hyssop with a scarlet thread. And he's taken, the live bird, and he's dipped into the blood of the first bird. And when he comes forth, the thread is cut, and the bird is set free. Free to fly to the vineyards, to fly to the mountains, to fly to the trees, free. The one to be cleansed and sprinkled with the blood from top of his head to his feet. The new man now is asked to wash his clothes, to shave his head and his beard, to bathe in clean water. A perfect male lamb will now be offered in his behalf. The priest will dip his finger in the blood of that lamb. He'll touch the lobe of the man's right ear. He'll then touch the thumb of his right hand, and then the big toe of his right foot. And he'll say, "You're clean. You can now go home." He'll go home and he'll kiss his wife and he'll hug his children and he'll tell everybody who will listen of the touch of the Master's hand. That man didn't know that same Jesus would one day die on a cross so that the whole world lost might one day be made clean. It wouldn't be the blood of a bird or the blood of a lamb that would cleanse them, but the blood of a man. All of us who are baptized into Christ Jesus were baptized into His death, is the way the Apostle Paul puts it in Romans 6, verse 3. This man couldn't quit talking about Jesus, and folks, neither must we. Luke says in verse 15, "And yet the news about him spread all the more, so that crowds of people came to hear him and to be healed of their sicknesses. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." There's an old illustration that has been given thousands and thousands of times, and several from this pulpit, I'm sure. But let me use it one more time to illustrate, I think, the message of this moment. You've heard it before, but it goes like this. 'Twas battered and scarred, and the auctioneer thought it scarcely worth his while to waste much time on the old violin, but he held it up with a smile. "What am I bidding, good folk?" he cried, "and who'll start the bidding for me? $1, then two, only two? $2, who'll make it three?" And from the room far back, a gray-haired man came forward and picked up the bow, and then wiping the dust from the old violin and tightening the loosened strings, he played a melody pure sweet as a caroling angel sings. The music ceased, and the auctioneer, with a voice that was quiet and low, said, "Now what am I bid for the old violin?" And he held it up with the bow. $1,000, and who'll make it two? 2,000, who'll make it three? 3,000 once, 3,000 twice, and going and gone, cried he. The people cheered, but some of them cried, "We don't understand. What changed its worth?" And quick came the reply, "The touch of the master's hand." And many a man with life out of tune and battered and scarred with sin is auctioned cheap to a thoughtless crowd, much like that old violin. A mess of pottage, a glass of wine, a game, and he travels on. He's going once and going twice. He's almost gone. But the master comes, and the foolish crowd never can quite understand the worth of a soul and the change that's wrought by the touch of the master's hand. Jesus touched the untouchables. Jesus loved the untouchables. He loved the unlovable. He forgives the unforgivable. He cleansed the leper. And folks, He's willing to cleanse you and me. Jesus is the answer to our lost world. And Jesus wants to touch each of us. If you're willing for Him to touch you today, will you come as together we stand and sing for your encouragement?
The Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from mine enemies. The Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. The Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. I will call upon the Lord.
Please be seated. A few announcements to bring to your attention today. Heather Cheevers gave me a note about Sister Gail Ingalls. Ken and Gail used to worship here years ago, and Gail has been diagnosed with esophageal cancer. They've caught it in its early stages, but wanted to make sure that we kept the family in our prayers, and her surgery will be on April the 8th. Maisel Edwards is home from the hospital. Speaking with Ron a couple of days ago, of course, Connie's been in and out of the hospital and been sick, and now Ron's a little under the weather, so just keep the Edwards family in your prayers. But Sister Maisel is home and doing much better. Have a note that the 10th through the 12th grade puppets will meet this Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. And then Sister Georgia Reading, it was announced that her surgery would be on April the 11th, and it's actually April the 1st. So her surgery will be tomorrow for her knee replacement, and she's staying with her daughter Denise. And I have an address here that I'll post on the bulletin board out here if you'd like to send her a card or something. So today's a big day for the family here at Center Street. We have a lot of things going on. We have 12 different job locations that we'll have teams going out to work on. If you would like to be a part of that and have not been given an assignment, please check with me immediately following services. We have plenty of opportunities there. And then also there's a group that's going to be going to the VA nursing home and doing a full worship service for them there. And 1 o'clock, Charles, is kind of we're shooting for a 1 o'clock start time, but basically just assemble there at the VA nursing home, and you'll start directly thereafter. Are there any other announcements that need to be mentioned? I'm sorry? So Charles Payne got out of the hospital on Friday, so he's back at home now. Charles?
Leonard Frederick, as everybody probably knows, his cancer has returned, and he's, so make sure you pray for him.
Yeah.
Because he's headed for some tests and some chemo and transfusions and that kind of thing, so keep him in prayer.
If y'all didn't hear, Leonard Frederick, his cancer's back, and it's pretty bad this time, so be sure and keep that family in your prayers as well. Mark?
So after about 10 years, I have decided to try to help coordinate another Devil's Den camp out like we used to have many years ago. It will be Friday, May 3rd. I have reserved a group camping area down there. It holds about, what'd they tell me, probably 30, 40, 50 people. Probably about 12 or 14 tents. If you have a pop-up, it'll hold 2 or 3 pop-up campers, but that's it. It's pretty primitive. But it's a start, right? So we're going to stay Friday the 3rd, and then we'll stay late into the 4th that night, and then the next morning is when we honor our seniors here. So we want everybody back here that Sunday morning for worship. But it's something I hope we can keep doing, and it'll be fun. We'll have, we'll hike, we'll have fishing, we'll have a group campfire, and it'll be a good time. So we will have a sign up. I couldn't get it to print this morning, but if you want your name on the list soon, get with me quickly. 12 or 14 families is what we're probably going to be able to hold. So there'll be more details later. Thank you.
Let's be standing for a closing song, and then we'll be dismissed for prayer. Do not wait until some deed of greatness you may do. Do not wait to shed your light afar. To the many who is ever to now be true. Bright in the corner where you are. Bright in the corner where you are. Bright in the corner where you are. Someone more is a guide across the bar. Bright in the corner where you are. You have one more verse? Okay, let's try that last one. Here for all your talent, you may surely find a need. Here reflect the bright and morning star. Even from the rumble and the bread of life may feed. Bright in the corner where you are. Bright in the corner where you are. Bright in the corner where you are. Someone far from Harvard, you may guide across the bar. Bright in the corner where you are.
Let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for allowing us to be here this morning and to worship you. and we just pray our worship was pleasing this morning, and we're grateful for the encouragement we get from being here and just seeing fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. Lord, as the song we just sang says, help us to be lights to those around us this week, and help us to share our faith with those that we come into contact with and be good examples to them. Lord, we want to pray for Leonard Frederick and Georgia Reading. Please help their health to be restored, and be with all those who are sick at this time. Lord, we just pray that you would bless our members as we go out today and do these service projects. We just pray that you'd bless all involved, and we're grateful for this opportunity to serve. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.